Hello viewers, Alan here again. In this video I want to make an accessory for the lathe that I've been thinking about for a while, being a tailstock die holder. And following my usual fashion, I want to, as far as I can, make it from recycled and reused and generally scrounged pieces. One of my candidates is going to be this reamer, which is no longer fit for use as a reamer, and some other bits and pieces. It's only fair to say I initially go off down a blind alley, but I have an epiphany, and it saves me from further abortive work, as you'll see, and finish up with a good result. So let's get into it. Found this in the scrap bin. It's a reamer with carbide inserts, but the teeth are broken, so it's been in the scrap bin. And I've been idly thinking for a while about making a tailstock die holder, and I'm looking at this lot and thinking, well, there's half of it straight away, well, a third of it anyway. So I'm going to hack that off, make a sleeve to fit over there, and an end to hold the die, and pretty much there. So over to the bandsaw. So it didn't take terribly long for the saw to chew its way through that. A hell of a lot better than using the hand hacksaw. So with this chopped off, it measures pretty much exactly 22 millimeters. So I need a sleeve to go over that, and then I'll put a die holder on the end here. So I found this bit of, I don't God knows where that came from, but anyway, it's pretty damn close to exactly what I need. So I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Well, as it turns out, I should have looked it in the mouth and checked his teeth carefully, because it wasn't the right way to go. But before I discovered that, and I've gone through a lot of trouble drilling it out to 22 millimeters, and then reaming it to an exact size on the shaft, and that involved a lot of dicking around with the reamer, because that was a problem. Anyway, then we got past all of that lot and got onto the correct track. What to do now is a slot in here, and a pin in there, and then I've got to make up the die holder head to go on the end. I'm thinking about making one at 1 inch for this end and one at 2 inches for the other end, and I'll most likely put them on with what's that stuff called, the green Loctite, that retaining compound, because that stuff makes super glue look weak. When you've got that stuff on there, it's on. So, I had an epiphany overnight, two actually, but anyway, first is, it dawned on me that this arrangement here, if I do put a stud in here and a slot, then I can't obviously turn it around and therefore have a 1 inch die holder on one end and 2 inch on the other. So scratch that idea. And then I was thinking, hang on a minute, I've got something like this already in the drawer left over from, and I remembered that I had this, something that was made in the dawn of my lathe career 40 odd years ago, and it is a 1 inch die holder on a tube, and as luck would have it, it's pretty darn close to the size of this arbor that I've made. So really all I've got to do is clean this guy out a bit, get it a slip fit on there, and for a 1 inch die I'm sure the stud with the slot will work just fine. So that's what I'll do there. The second epiphany that I had was thinking about my comment about mounting a 2 inch die, and I suddenly realised that this is the size of die stock that you use for those. So it occurred to me that with the amount of torque that's going to be required to restrain one of these things, the simple slot and pin isn't going to work. So I'll need to make up a much heavier duty sleeve and use my broach and keyway approach to handle the torque. Either that, or have the die holder with a torque arm off one side. So I'll check out that possibility as well. But anyway, for the rest of this, I'm going to make this fit on there, pin and slot. Okay, to open the diameter of this tube out a little bit, I won't be able to use the reamer because the die holder part is set into the tube, or the tube's set on against the shoulder. So there's a smaller diameter at this end, and I don't know whether you'll be able to see that, but anyway, I can't run the reamer all the way through. So for all my reservations about the accuracy of my lathe, I'm going to have to use a boring bar to open this up a little bit. So I started off by taking a very light clean-up sort of pass down through the inside of the tube, and I was very wary of the wear in my lathe and the difficulty of getting any sort of consistency in diameter over a 100mm length, particularly when it's right up in fact through the chuck. So after taking a minimal clean-up pass through the tube, the arbor goes in a long way but then becomes tight, and our initial reaction was to assume my badly worn lathe was the problem, and it may be, but what we can also see here is we got only a whisker over 22 at this end and a fat whisker up this end. It's another 0.05. So I think the problem might be more to do with the taper on the arbor than it is on the in the bore in the tube. So let's clean this up a little bit and get this nearer to parallel. So there's still got some way to go. So then I went through a couple of cycles of putting some Sharpie on it and marking it up and doing a test fit and seeing where it was rubbing, a bit more filing and sanding, and then I got the fit I needed. Okay, well that's got that fitting on there pretty well now. Quite snug actually, just when it's fully on there, which is where obviously the thread cutting will start, and loosens up a bit once it comes off. So what's left to do now is slot and pin. Okay, so I'm getting set up now to put that screw in the end of the bar. So I've got the tang on the end of this thing is 8mm thick. So it's an 8mm thick Allen key, just as a packing piece to keep the jaws of the vise parallel. So I've run a dial gauge over the bar to make sure I've got it set up right, ready for the hole, and that's certainly going to be good enough. So time to position the drill and get on with that. Alright, so I've used the wobbler to position the drill on the centre line of the bar and to find the end of the bar, and then to move to the position where I want to drill the hole for the screw. I want to be 12 from the end. Just do a crude check on that. And you can see that that's about 12, well maybe you can, that says about 12. So drill size to tap for an M8 is 6.8. Don't have a 6.8, I've got a 6mm and an H. H is pretty damn close, so we'll go through with a 6 first. Right, I should make sure the hole starts in the right place. Careful the way that bar moved in. Right, so hopefully that'll keep it in check, stop it moving around. Right, I kept it in check, so I should have done in the first place. Oh well, it's amateurs for you. Now, the screw head that I want to use as a guide is longer than it needs to be, and I want to let it into the bar a little bit. So we'll do it's just under, or it's a hair under 8. So, and I want it to be a nice tight fit in the top of the hole. So we'll just touch the top of the hole with a 5/16 drill, which is a bit undersized for 8mm, and we'll see how that feels. Yeah. Yeah, that's lovely. Yep, that'll be perfect. Right, so now I want to tap the hole. Okay, bit of tap magic. Let's slip into back gear. Okay, so we're getting set up here to put the slot in the side of the sleeve part of this tool. So I'm going to kick off with the wobbler, edge finder, and make sure we get centered on there. Goes. Right. That's got the milling spindle on the center line. So now I'm just going to find the end of the sleeve the same way. Now I know the center of the spindle is 3mm to the right, so we'll 0x, go over 3mm. Now we're right on the end and in the middle. So I take the wobbler out of the way. Okay, so I need an 8mm wide slot, and it wants to come up to 88mm. The centre of the cutter needs to be up to 88mm from this end, and I'm going to do the bulk of the work using a 5/16 end mill, because that's slightly undersized on 8, and then hopefully I'll finish it out with 8 and get a good finish at size. But I'm going to start it off. This is actually a slot drill, 2 flute drill, and it can actually drill just to get me started. But then I'll change over to a 4 flute cutter. And change over to a 4 flute cutter. I've got lots of 4 flute cutters, not so many of the 2 flute slot drills, so I'll protect those. Alright, let's see what we've got. Well, we've certainly got a slot. Right, let's do a bit of deburring while we've still got the setup there. Well, I think that's within a quick file. Okay, so I've deburred this, and apart from an idiot scratch there, that looks neat enough. But more importantly, does it do what we want it to do? Well, looks like at full travel, I can just see that the slot's a smidge longer than the a smidge past the thing, just enough I think that we'll be able to screw that in. Yeah, that's very nice. Okay, I probably won't be able to screw this all the way in here because it gets quite tight, but here we go. I think maybe it's just a bit too close there. Let's see if that's any happier about going in away from the end of the slot. Oh yes. That's going to sort itself out fairly quickly. A little bit of usage. Oh. Well, I'm pretty happy with that fit. It there's just a little bit, just enough of a. All right. Well, it's probably time to test it. See if it actually works. Okay, so we'll give it a meaningful test. That's 3/8 UNC die in there, and a bit of 3/8 rod. I think it's an old hinge pin actually. Anyway, so I'll just face the end and put a bit of a chamfer on it. And we've got going really slow, so I've got plenty of time to react and see what's going on. Let's give it a go. Now it's off. Oh, I seem to pull its way along all right, doesn't it? So we go in reverse and see if it can back out. Well, that seems to be all right. I think we say that passed its test. Okay. It's actually loosened up quite nicely now too. Do a bit more, I suppose. Right, let's put some more of this on. So I'm pretty happy with the way this is working. Although you can see this with this test piece, there's a bit of a bend in the rod, so that's making things move around a little bit. But the system seems to tolerate that all right. So yeah, call that a success.